And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey folks, I'm always excited when I get a new Matagot game in because they are just the pinnacle of production. I almost want to say they're the best company production-wise for games that there is in the market at this point. And this game here, which Korrigans, I had heard really nothing about it, but it's about leprechauns finding the pot of gold and using different animals to find it. And so that sounded interesting to me, so I wanted to check it out. Played it, a very light game. Let me show you. At the beginning of the game, you're going to be placing a bunch of these clover leaves all over the place, face down in piles, and these menhirs. These each have like a sticker on the bottom of them, which is going to show what the bonus of that menhir is. And then players are also going to get 2 leprechauns in their color. And of course, since this is Matagot, you'll notice that all the leprechauns are different, and even the 2 ones you have are different, although that doesn't really mean anything over the course of the game. Now, what a player is going to do each round. One player is first. That player has the rainbow bag. And they're going to reach in this rainbow bag and draw out a color. And they're going to place that color up here on one of these sunny spaces here. Now they can place it on any of these spaces that they want. And what they are doing essentially is they are canceling that row, basically saying that later on in the game the pot of gold is going to show up. And it's going to show up in one of these rows and columns. Which one? I know not. But it's not that row. And then you pass the bag to the next person. I'll talk a little bit about this more later. Then each player gets a turn, starting with the person who has the bag, and that person must move one of their leprechauns to an adjacent area, or to another area that they can get to. Now at the beginning of the game, when you put your leprechauns on the board, you're going to be able to look at all the 4-leaf clovers in your area and pick one of them. Now, you're going to have possibilities of gold from 1 to 4. Those are worth points, but you also have the possibility of taking these animal companion tokens. So you want to take at least one of them at the beginning of the game because you get 2. You get 1 from each spot where your leprechauns are. And so on your turn, you can reveal one of your animal companion tokens, and each person has their own customized shield that you can hide your tokens behind in gold and such. And you then use that animal token, and you can keep it in front of you. You can use it for the rest of the game. So once I have a mouse, I can use a mouse. For example, here, a mouse lets you cross a bridge. So if I was here, I could use the mouse to go from here to here. The most common things to use are rabbits, which will simply let you go through a hole in the hedges. And there's a little rabbit thing here to remind you. Or squirrels, which allow you to go through a gate. And here's a gate. If for some reason you don't have an animal token and you need one, you can discard any token, a gold token, and take one of these big rabbit or squirrel tokens and put it in front of you. Again, once you have an animal companion, you can always use that animal companion. Other animals, there's a bird token, and that one simply lets you go from one color to the same color. So if I have a bird token, I can go from this yellow area to this yellow area. There's also mole tokens. A mole token lets you go from one mole to any other mole. You can see there's one here in the pumpkin patch. And then there are frog tokens, which let you go from one frog thing on the river to another frog on the river. So there's different tokens that allow you to move different ways. When you get to the new area, you simply will pick up all the clover leaves in that area. You'll pick one, put it behind your shield, and that's the end of your turn. If you take the last one out of a field, then you get the menhir, and you get whatever it says here. This is 2 coins at the end of the game. This one here, 1 coin at the end of the game. 3 coins at the end of the game. Oh man, this one here is a nastier looking guy. This one here lets you put out a goblin. Now, there are these different tokens that you can get. So the goblin one would go underneath my character like this. However, and at the end of the game, he's going to be worth -2. However, anytime I move into a spot where there is another leprechaun, I can give it to him. You can also find one that gives you a +2. But if someone else moves into your area, they can steal that from you. There's also one where you can have a troll. A troll simply is put on the board and blocks between 2 different spots. And there's one that lets you take away someone else's shield. So for the rest of the game, they have to play with all their tokens that they get revealed. Now this is going to continue, and players, after all the players go, then the next player gets the rainbow bag, and they draw a color. Now here's a yellow, so they can place it here. And as these colors are drawn, eventually you're going to draw a color that's been drawn before. Well, then you put that up and the top here on one of these columns. And this is going to continue as these tokens are placed in columns and row. However, once you get the 7th color for a row, so let's say down here I drew the 7th color, the other 6 colors are in, that's going to signal the end of the game. At that point, I, who drew the 7th color, am going to pick the pot of gold here, which is a pretty cool little model, and I'm going to place it in that row where I would have put that color, but it also has to go in a column where there is no colors at the top. So I have 3 choices. I can put it here, here, or here. Now as the game has progressed, these squares meant nothing. You are simply going from area to area on the board. But that square matters where you put that pot of gold. And then everyone gets one last turn where they're going to use all their companions. Normally you can use a companion, it's permanent, and it allows you to move from one spot to another spot. However, on the last turn, you can use all your companions to make as many moves as you need, but each time you use a companion, you discard it. So if I was over here, for example, I would say, okay, I want to get to this pot of gold up here. Well, I'll use a bird token, now the bird's gone, and then I'll use a squirrel token to get in there. However, that doesn't leave me. So I got both my tokens there, but maybe someone can get one of their guys there, but they don't have enough tokens left to get their other leprechaun there. That's going to get you bonus points. If you get one of your leprechauns up to that pot of gold, you get 10 bonus coins. If you get both of them up there, you get 15 bonus coins. And then you take all the rest of the coins that you've gotten from the different tokens and from these that you might have around your leprechauns, and whoever has the most is the winner of the game. Now, I will say I was a little disappointed at one point because I was looking at the grid, and as you put the rainbow colors out, like, where is the treasure? Well, simply put, the treasure is kind of random. At the beginning of the game, you're saying, okay, I'm going to cancel out this column, this row, this row, this row, now this column. But you don't really know where you're going to be at the end of the game, so it's not like it's this, we're narrowing down where the pot of gold is. You are narrowing it down, but since you have to run around and get those tokens, it doesn't really matter that much. Where the game is interesting is in the movement and getting the tokens. And you have to decide how many of those different movement tokens do you want. You can get a lot of those movement tokens, which at the end of the game will probably let you get to the treasure easily and will allow you to move during the course of the game. But at the same time, are you going to pass up those 4 coins and 3 coins when you find them? And these menhirs, they throw a little bit of a wrinkle in the game because they're random, and most of them are positive. There's a couple negative ones, but even the negative ones, if you get a negative thing, it's not hard to pawn that off onto somebody else. The ones that make you get rid of your shield, that's interesting. I've never seen that in a game before. That makes you get rid of a shield. But in this game, it's not the end of the world. Sure, everybody sees what you have, but it's not like it's that big of a secret. You're just simply collecting gold, and people can count your gold. The components, A+. Well, A. It doesn't get the plus because the rainbow colors can be confused by some people, although since you're probably going to be playing with someone who's not colorblind, I'm going to say the red one's here. It's not like you need to know what colors are where. But man, it's gorgeous. And the board itself, I showed you had all those animals, but you can flip it on the other side, and there are no animal pictures here, and then you just have to remember, okay, if it's an open spot, that's a rabbit. If it's a gate, it can go here. If it's a frog. And so you can play with the very easy to know, because they put the symbols on, or in my opinion, a much cleaner, more beautiful board. They're the exact same board on both sides. This game is light, okay? We're not talking about anything heavy here. This is kind of the game you play to pass the time, and it takes about 40 minutes to play, but I found it entertaining. It's just back and forth, moving pieces around. This is a solid family game, and I think people are going to like it because the theme is so fun, the components are neat, and it has this ease of, okay, I'm going to move here, and it's not that difficult because once you have a rabbit, you can just keep moving around through the rabbit holes. You get a rabbit and a squirrel, you can move almost anywhere, but then you get the other ones, the cool ones, the bird ones, and the moles, and your options become more interesting and unique. So certainly, I don't think this is any game that's going to just blow people's minds, but it is a fun family-style game, and we certainly need more of them. Dice Tower Judgment, approved.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.
Tout de deux